Hi everyone, I'm Ian Harvey, massage therapist. Today we're going to talk about massage-related wrist pain and wrist injuries. This might be something that has started to accumulate after maybe increasing your schedule at work. You've started to feel aches and pains here, or maybe you tweaked something on the massage table one day and that pain has been lingering and you'd like to know how to deal with it. Just like with my thumb pain video, which you can see if you click in the corner down there, we're going to be talking about what to do in that acute stage, how to rest and ice it and make sure that it recovers, and how to change your massage so that we're not continually re-injuring it. Then we'll talk about things like stretching, strengthening, self-massage, and eventually how to reintegrate some of the massage moves that we kind of phased out in those first couple of weeks. Now, just as a disclaimer, if you have new pain that you're not familiar with, or if that pain lingers or get worse, do go see your doctor about that. Today, I want to talk about pain that you're familiar with, that you kind of accepted as your new life as a massage therapist. Oh, I've got to have wrist pain. But that's not necessarily the case. These things that we're going to do should be fairly safe, but if after a while you're not seeing any success, do go see your doctor. We're going to talk about how to get your wrists back in fighting shape in 5 phases. In the first phase, we're going to take a wrist vacation. And this is going to be much like the thumb vacation that I talked about in my thumb video, but we can't take these completely out of the picture. There are great ways of doing thumbless massage, which I talk about in another video if you'd like to see it, but the wrist is integral to so much of what we do. There are forearm-only massages, but they can feel quite a bit different than the massage that you might be used to delivering. I want you to still be able to deliver your massage, just with less pain here, and in a way that allows this wrist pain to recover. This wrist vacation is going to last about 2 weeks. This is going to be a time when you're de-emphasizing those palmar moves, those moves where you're concentrating on applying pressure through the palmar surface of your hand, especially if you find yourself going into extension as you do so and just using this carpal region. That can put a lot of pressure on a wrist that's suddenly less stable. The straighter your wrist, the more stable it's going to feel. And so we need to change the angle at which we apply pressure. That means taking a step back and applying pressure, still with those palmar surfaces, applying pressure at a 45-degree angle that allows the wrist to stay straighter. It also means doubling up whenever possible. Instead of trying to apply 40 pounds of pressure with this hand, apply 40 pounds of pressure with 2 hands, with one hand atop the other. It's half as much work for each arm while still delivering that deep pressure. And of course, you're going to want to look at different tools. What works for you and what causes you pain? Your body is going to tell you which moves you can and can't do. So if you're able to apply open fist pressure, then do so. If you're able to apply fingertip pressure and thumb pressure, then use those as well. Again, you're going to want to use these in safe ways, in ways that are braced, and you're going to be combining your 2 hands instead of just relying on one hand, because we want to transition to these new ways of working without causing further pain. So work as safely as possible, listen to your body, listen to your joints, and make sure that you're not putting too much emphasis on any one technique. And of course, we've got forearms and elbows. In an ideal wrist vacation, you're going to move from using your forearms and elbows just 2 or 3 minutes per massage to more like 10 minutes per massage. That's going to be a change for you and a change for your client, but I bet you anything, whenever you have to take away certain things and replace them with new things, you're going to find yourself being creative in ways that you didn't expect, and your clients are going to respond positively to this neat new stuff you're doing. You're going to get a lot of compliments that you may not have been getting before, and it's not because your old stuff was bad, it's because this stuff is new and cool. So reduce the amount of time that you're using palmar pressure during your massage, explore your fists, explore fingertips and thumbs, and elbows and forearms. And for at least 2 weeks, take some of that pressure off of your wrists. When you do use them in ways that don't cause that tweak, that little bit of pain. Phase 2 is still going to be in that acute phase of pain. You're going to be icing and you're going to be wrapping. People like heat for this as well. Do whatever works for you, but this is my personal icing regimen whenever my wrists start to feel funky. When my wrists are feeling inflamed or just tweaked, I like to ice them twice a day. And I'll do some combination of using ice packs and ice immersion. With ice packs, I like this kind with the built-in elastic. You can see a link to that in the description. I like this kind because you can kind of apply it and then forget about it, even though one of your hands is now kind of useless. I'll leave this on for about 15 minutes. If it gets too numb, I'll take it off, move my hand around a little bit, and then reapply it. You can also do ice immersion, and I think this is an excellent idea because no injury happens in isolation. So all of this musculature that crosses over the wrist here is all going to be involved in some way. In fact, when we're doing self-massage later, we're going to be concentrating mostly out here. Get yourself a nice big bin, fill it with water and at least, one tray full of ice. It doesn't have to be a lot. And plunge your arm down in there, embrace the interesting new sensation of one part of your body being dramatically colder than any other. Let that sit for 3 or 4 minutes. Take your arm out, dry it off, move it around a bit, do some of the stretches that we're going to go through later very gently, and then reapply at least one more time, take out, move it around. For at least 5 hours out of the rest of the day and maybe between massages, I do recommend wrapping those injured areas. I like these cheap wrist wraps that you can find in any drugstore. These are usually marketed for carpal tunnel syndrome. I like to remove the rigid piece so that it doesn't lock me into one position. I just want the compression, and you can just kind of set it and forget it. You can also use an ACE bandage, but when you're wrapping this, concentrate here, but also concentrate down your arm. I would like compression all the way down if possible. This might not be long enough, so just do your best and definitely do include the wrist. And just as a note, don't sleep in anything that's providing compression or cold unless a doctor tells you to do so. We don't want to reduce blood supply without you knowing it. The next phase is going to be gentle self-massage, and this can overlap with the wrist vacation. Just be kind to this entire area. Be as kind to yourself as you would be to a client who has just been injured. And just realize that you have much more access to yourself than you would with any client. So don't try to get a whole lot done in any one session. Realize that you can do it again the next day and the next day and the next day. And over time you'll accumulate benefits instead of trying to make this wrist pain go away in one day. Warm this area up. Grasp one forearm with the other hand and rotate at the wrist as you rotate in the opposite direction with your hand. And let this be light. We're just creating a little bit of light superficial friction all the way down to the wrist and all the way up to these epicondyles. This is all related, and if some of these muscles are acting up, you can feel it here. So just because the pain is here, don't forget about everything that attaches and goes through there. So gentle warm up, just a few passes up and down. And then we want to work with these flexors and the extensors in a couple of different ways. The easiest way, a way that you could do between massage clients, is to just grasp with a duck grip or with a full grip. Grasp your tissue on both sides, be gentle, and go through just a gentle range of motion. I'm not trying to, change how far I can go. I'm just very gently engaging those flexors and extensors. Right now I'm concentrating on this lateral portion of my forearm, but I can switch and concentrate on that medial portion. And you can rotate, you can do all sorts of stuff. Have fun. And that can be all that you do in a day. But if you'd like to add a little onto that, especially as your wrist starts recovering, you can do some focused, gentle myofascial release to these extensors and these flexors. So to get at these extensors, you can rest this on a desk or on a table or on the arm of a chair here and use an open fist or a palm if you can do it painlessly, and apply pressure down toward the bones, but mostly toward your inner elbow. So this is going to be a little bit of an awkward angle, but find a way to brace this arm that's comfortable for you, find a way to support it, and don't use too much pressure with this other arm. Notice how my elbow is far up above my working surface. That allows me to use the weight of my arm to apply most of this pressure. And I am using my pecs just a little bit. Go very slow with this, and you can just do it like this with no engagement, but as you recover, you can start to engage this wrist and those fingers, doing gentle flexion and then move back to neutral, and then flex again. That will change the feel of this massage. And it's just a nice fascial stretch that you can't get just from trying to stretch. And all the way to that lateral epicondyle. It can be a little bit hard to reach it, so don't worry too much about going toward the epicondyle, but at least get near it. You can do the same thing with your flexors, but it's a different angle, and you may have some difficulty with this. I like this way just fine, but you may have more success doing something like this, letting this arm be on top, and then angling this arm, and just letting the two slowly pass each other like ships in the night. And again, you can extend, come back to neutral, extend, and make your way all the way to that medial epicondyle. Don't come too far toward that ulna, or you're going to start impinging on that ulnar nerve. Just keep this broad and angled, and you should feel this still all the way down into your wrist. And you can do this stuff and this stuff as much as you want just through your day between massages, but those slow myofascial passes, do those once a day to begin with, and then maybe add a second time if you find that that's giving you a lot of relief. Phase 4 is stretching and strengthening, and these I encourage you to leave until after those first couple of weeks, until after that more acute stage when you're still really feeling that wrist stuff. Let your wrist, let your nervous system recover before you start interfering too much. So with stretching, just realize that if this area is already in distress, that doing too much too soon could distress it further. For stretching, I imagine these are moves you learned in massage school. Take your fingers with your other hand, move them back toward that lateral epicondyle. That's going to stretch your flexors here. Take a curled in fist, bring it down toward that medial epicondyle, and that's going to stretch these extensors. You can change this up by changing how your hand is oriented. So if we go into supination and then curl that fist and bring it toward that inner elbow, looks like this, you're going to feel that stretch back here, but it's going to feel a little bit different. Same if you, from that supinated position, bring your fingers back and down toward your olecranon process. That's going to feel a little bit different. It's because all of these muscles are oriented differently now. And it's unlikely that you'll be able to do this. I recommend that you go to a comfortable end point, stay within about the range of motion that feels good to you, and don't try to shoot for the moon. Don't try to change by 10 degrees in any one day. Instead, just come into it, come out. Come into it, come out. Just about as fast as you breathe. And then by the third or fourth or fifth repetition, maybe you've come a little bit farther. But use your best judgment as a massage therapist and don't force this. You may also have some success warming up and stretching and massaging areas that are farther up, but that's kind of out of the scope for this video. And then there's strengthening. For this, I recommend doing grip exercises and flexion and extension exercises. You're going to want to wait to do this until you're past that stage of initial pain, but this can help you get out of pain if you're gentle with it and if you use a reasonable amount of weight. That might mean using 5-pound weights for some of the exercises that I'm about to describe. For the grip exercises, I like some nice therapy putty. I like to squeeze this for about 2 to 3 minutes, allow myself to get out of there. I like to squeeze this putty for about 2 to 3 minutes until my hand is fatigued, maybe do some ice and some stretching, and then do the other hand. You can do a second set, but ramp up to that over time. For flexion and extension exercises, there are some cool doodads that you can buy online. I've got links down in the description that are useful for just working out this area, but I like to use free weights for this. It's a little bit complicated for me to show, and I don't have a great bench here or anything like that, but if you'd like to see a description of that, click down in the description. Just be gentle and start with less weight and fewer reps and sets than you think you need to. If you don't know a lot about weight training, use the doodads. If none of this is comfortable for you, then consider leaving the strength training part out and consider going to see a doctor. Maybe you can go see a physical therapist. A lot of this stuff can be due to weakness. And finally, phase 5 is going to be reintroducing your palms, reintroducing that carpal region to more direct pressure. And I think that this can be a perfectly acceptable part of massage, of applying your pressure through a bent wrist. Just realize that the more you do it, the more this area can get upset. If you find that you're having pain as you do it, you need to back off again, and it could be a couple of months before you can comfortably compress using a reasonably bent wrist. Or you may just need to switch to things that don't put so much pressure on the wrist in this position. So as the weeks have passed, you've done your wrist vacation, you've iced, you've stretched, you've strengthened. Now you can start applying that palmar pressure again. Just keep in mind how much of your session you're doing it with. I'm hoping that having taken that vacation, you'll be automatically using it a bit less. But just see if you're falling back into those old patterns of only using this palmar pressure. And in this new life where you're not going to constantly be having wrist pain, you need to be listening to your body. If you start to feel fatigue, switch tools, switch to fists, switch to forearms and elbows. Switch before you start to feel pain, switch before that fatigue gets too noticeable. And keep doubling up, keep bracing your own palms, keep using a variety of tools, and always keep that angle in mind. If you can avoid this 90-degree angle when you're applying pressure, especially deep pressure, your wrist is going to be much happier. Now, after all of this, if your wrist pain is persistent or recurrent and nothing quite seems to help, please do go see your doctor. They have diagnostic tests and treatments that we can only dream of. So don't let this be your new life. Wrist pain doesn't have to be part and parcel of being a massage therapist. Let me know if you have any wrist-related tips of your own down in the comments. If you've got any questions, I'd love to answer them. Thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.